A bounce back season for the Auburn Tigers comes to a disappointing end in this weekend's Super Regional.
You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
Yes, sir. Welcome into the Uptempo Podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Smith, in here today to discuss the Super Regional that didn't necessarily go the way we wanted it to, huh, guys? Auburn drops 2 games to Coastal Carolina, and just like that, the season is over. Ike Irish plays his last game at Plainsman Park. Cooper McMurray plays his last game at Plainsman Park. And I want to start there before we kind of get into talking about this actual series and breaking down what went wrong for Auburn. When we look back at last year, not even making it to Hoover, only winning 8 games in conference, really just never had any juice once SEC play got going. Auburn baseball was really facing a crossroads. You had all this money that was getting pumped into the new ballpark, into the new facilities, and this weekend was just elite. The regional was elite. It's an elite SEC atmosphere at this point. All the money that went into that, Auburn could not come out this year with all these new upgrades, with all these resources being pumped into the program and not perform. They had to perform. And not only did they have to perform and reach the postseason, they kind of had to max out their potential or, not come up short type thing. And for me, when I look back at last year, how that season ended with Auburn only winning 8 games, the conference or whatever it was, not even making it to the SEC tournament, for them to come back this year with a young team, with guys like Chris Rembert and Bub Terrell and Alvarez, with all these freshmen playing key contributing roles, it gives you a lot of hope for the future. It's Butch Thompson letting you know, hey, I'm still that guy. I can still field a good team. And also it's telling those money people that paid for this new ballpark and paid for these new upgrades and are putting all these resources into the program. It kind of validation for them. Money well spent. Look what your money got you. You got 2 back-to-back weekends of an incredible atmosphere in Auburn. So I want to give my shout out to Butch Thompson and his staff, and I want to give a shout out to this team from the young cats, the freshmen like Chris Rembert, up to the seniors like Ike Irish and Cooper McMurray. They really came in a year that Auburn baseball needed to perform, and they did, and they lived up to expectations. And I felt like, you remember we had this discussion with the basketball team where the question was starting to get asked as the tournament was approaching, what's acceptable for Auburn? Because it's been such a good season. Auburn was ranked number 1 for a long time, long winning streaks, big wins, the big wins and the Maui Invitational and all that. The discussion was starting to be, hey, how far does Auburn have to go to where it's not a disappointment? That same discussion started coming up once Auburn got the number 4 overall seed. A lot of people were saying Auburn has to get to Omaha. I always felt like Auburn had the potential to get to Omaha. I picked Auburn to get to Omaha. But for me, it was the teams at least got to get to a super regional. If you go back to 2 years ago, you had the 2 in the barbecue at home when you got to host a regional. So I felt like Auburn had to make it out of that first weekend this time and get to a super regional. And then we would look at the matchup. Turns out we played a really solid Coastal Carolina team. We'll get into in just a second. And I felt like this was an even series. Either team could win it. And if Auburn did lose, as long as they didn't just get blown off and look like they didn't even belong on the field, then I felt like that it would be I don't want to say like expectations met, but it doesn't feel, to me, it doesn't feel like Auburn fell short. They had more in them. I think this Auburn team definitely would have capitalized on its opportunities this weekend. They definitely could have went to Omaha and competed there and won some games there. I think ultimately their lack of reliable starting pitching probably would have been what kept Auburn from winning it if Auburn would have got there, winning the whole thing. But, still, for this team to get to the Super Regional, to be competitive, to win the Regional 3-0, and to bring postseason baseball back to Auburn, Alabama, I thought that it was big time for the program, and I don't feel like this team fell short. I feel like this is reasonable for this group to get to a super regional, and that's not ho hum. Like, not a lot of teams. There's a lot of college baseball teams. Not a lot of them make it this far, right? And only 8 make it to Omaha. So I think overall, it was a good season. You kind of reestablished yourself. You reestablished the program. It was like a program reset, right? And then also, you able to have guys like Ike Irish, and Cooper McMurray, who are good players for Auburn and did everything right for Auburn, but had not had no postseason success. They got to have they got to win a regional. They got to play in a super regional. I hate the fact that those guys, Ike Iris is such a talent. Like he deserved to play in the College World Series, and that would have been great, not only for Auburn, but for the sport of college baseball to have a talent like that, a top 10, top 15 pick that he's going to be, to have him in Omaha would have been overall good for the sport. But I'm glad that those guys got to get out of that first weekend to win a regional and to have some success and get on to host that super regional and get to play meaningful postseason baseball because they definitely deserved it. And then you have a lot of young guys like Chris Rimbert now that you get a lot of guys coming back, not just true freshmen, but you got a lot of guys coming back that now you should have plenty of fuel. You should have plenty of fuel in the fire. And a lot of them said that post game. They said this is gonna motivate us moving forward. So not only do you expect those players to improve and become better players after another year in collegiate baseball, but I also expect their mentality to be like, because if you follow the Auburn baseball social media accounts, they posted the videos, they posted little clips of the dugout after the game, and it tore me up inside to see guys like my dude Cooper McMurray, teary eyed and emotional, and to see Ike that way, it hurts. It stings because we love these guys, right? And we know how much they put into it. I've spoken on this podcast a lot about just the hard work that Cooper McMurray has put in, not only on the baseball field throughout the offseason, but also in the community, in the locker room to kind of establish the culture and get the culture back right from some of the things that went on last year in Auburn baseball. And I think that Cooper did an excellent job of that. And that's why he was my MVP at our award show, because not only has he been excellent on the field, but everything he's done off the field, I just think that he meant the world to this team. So they set a great example for the young guys. So there's a lot to look forward to moving forward for Auburn baseball. And I'm just very proud of this team. I'm very proud of this group. All that being said, this weekend, let's talk about this weekend. What did I say? It sounds cliche. You can hear it and you can say, no, duh, Dustin. But when you have teams that are this even, on our last episode, we looked at Coastal Carolina by the numbers. When you have teams that are this even, I felt like it was going to be close all weekend. I felt like every game was going to be close. My number one key was Auburn has to capitalize on the few opportunities that they get. And Auburn just didn't do it. They did it some Friday night in game one. Nothing yesterday. No extra base hits, leaving runners all over the play. I mean, we just left guys on base like, it was going out of style. You just can't do that versus a team like Coastal Carolina, because Coastal Carolina, what I said on the preview show, is they're not going to beat themselves. You watch them play, you can see that. They're a well-coached team. They got great players. The analytics told you that. It doesn't matter, like, through whatever lens you looked at it, Coastal Carolina can play good baseball. And that's exactly what they did this weekend. They came in and they played good baseball, and they made the most of their opportunities when Auburn didn't. You go back to game one, there's a lot. We could do a 30-minute episode dissecting game one, but really it's just two good teams trading blows back and forth. Tough for Auburn to use Carson Myers. Then the rain comes and you can't use it for game two, and you didn't get everything you wanted out of them in game one. But ultimately, man, it's just two teams like trading blows. Auburn in the ninth inning gets runners on first and second, and you get nothing out of it. You have to find a way, right? Like, I know Cooper McMurray's got power. I know that he can drive the ball. He hit one hard earlier in the game. Man, I just feel like you got a bunt right there. And who the hell am I to question Gabe Gross and Butch Thompson and these guys? But, like, you bunt right there. You saw Coastal Carolina do it in the game yesterday. They were able to get down a bunt, get their runners advanced in the scoring position, and ultimately they capitalized. They did that with their three-hole hitter, a guy that was, I don't think he was batting over 300 or right around 300. They did that, and they were still able to advance the runners, and then ultimately they capitalized and bring those guys home. That, to me, because then you knew in game two that Coastal Carolina is going into their 11-0 ace that we talked about, right? That we all knew the stud that he was. So, and he came out and he was that guy. And runners on first and second, you don't bunt Coop. He's out. He gets out. And then you have the play that looks like it's getting through the infield. Coastal Carolina makes a great play, doubles you up. You end up losing the game in extras, man. Um, Missed opportunity. And the Super Regional at your home ballpark, tie game. You've got runners on first and second with no outs. You've got to find a way to win that game. Period. You have to find a way to win that game. You're facing their ace the next day. If you get to Sunday, they got another stud coming up on the bump. And that was just kind of the story of the series to me, and especially yesterday. Just felt like Auburn could never get anything going yesterday. Anytime they had any big time opportunities, they weren't able to capitalize on it. And that to me was really the difference of the series. Coastal Carolina didn't beat themselves. And when you have teams that are this even, when you have teams that are this closely matched up, it's the little things. It's the throw to first yesterday, where it kind of goes off Cooper's glove. And I know we reviewed it to see if he was the base runner was in the way and all that kind of stuff. It's just the little things. You didn't make the little plays. Meanwhile, Coastal didn't do any of that. You know, Chris Rimber hit a couple of hard ground balls yesterday that should have got through the infield. Coastal made great plays. The diving catch in the outfield at one point, their guy dives out, kind of ice cream cones it off the ground. Like, they just did their damn thing. They capitalized on the little opportunities enough, and Auburn did it. And two teams that, you know, if they played a 7-game series, I bet it'd go 7 games. And if the outcome could be different every time, like, I think these were two evenly matched teams. And ultimately, Coastal Carolina they were able to capitalize when it was their moment and they had to make something happen. They stayed composed. They did what they had to do, you know. And I go back to game 1 and pulling Quentin Graves out it was just so Griffin Graves, excuse me. It was so I just didn't agree with it. I felt like he still had it. Right? He wasn't getting hit. He was fine in the strike zone. I mean, hell, he's with 5 strikeouts. So I felt like you could have kept riding him. And also, I mean, I go all back to the first inning. Auburn goes up 1-0 in the first inning of game 1. But why did you send Chris Rimbert on a steal with your best hitter at the plate? And then he smokes one over the center fielder. You could have been up 2-0. And the game that you ultimately lost by 1 run, a mistake that cost you a run way back in the first inning. There's no reason to try to run on Cade Bodine, especially with the top of your lineup. You're in the top of your lineup. You got your best hitters coming up. There's no reason to force it. And you got your leadoff guy on. I didn't understand it. So just little things like that. You get thrown out because you're running on a guy that you're not going to steal on, right? He was money all weekend behind the plate anytime we tried to do anything. And there's a lot that happened since that moment. So that moment kind of gets forgotten about. But you lost the game by 1 run. If that doesn't happen, when Ike smokes that ball over the center fielder, it's 2-0. It's not 1-0. So just frustrating. Those little things you can look back and kind of nitpick. This is where we went wrong, and here and there. And Coastal Carolina didn't do that. They didn't make those mistakes. They made things happen. They bunted with runners on first and second, and then brought those guys around. And in game 2, whenever Coastal took that lead, it just never. You know, I was standing on the Performance Center, and it was an awesome job by everybody at Auburn to get that set up. It was a great atmosphere and get as many seats in there as possible. Um, but it just when that moment happened, you just kind of felt it in the ballpark. And I stayed up there. I wish I could show you the back of my legs right now. They're as red as this Red Bull can. I promise you. I got toasted up there. I got burnt, baby. It was 100 degrees. I was up there roasting for my Tigers, and it just kind of felt like in that moment, Auburn was never going to, just wasn't going to manufacture any of those runs. You know, Coastal Carolina yesterday had leadoff hitter get on, I believe, 6 times. It felt like every inning. And at the one point when they had the bases loaded, and ultimately Auburn was able to get out of it, Cade Fisher was able to get out of a bases loaded with no outs. Well, then you came right back the next inning. You didn't do anything in your frame, which kind of felt like a gut punch. You're like, all right, we just survived the situation here. We better pull in some runs, and you don't make it happen. You leave guys stranded, and you come right back out, and they got the leadoff guy on again. It just felt like Auburn was fighting uphill. It felt like the Coastal Carolina kept the pressure on Auburn all weekend. Auburn didn't force the pressure. They didn't press Coastal. It was Auburn that was always in that position of having to make something happen. And in a tight game, in a tight series like that, Auburn didn't do it. Tough day for Cooper McMurray yesterday. Tough way for him to go out 0 for 4 with four strikeouts. Just hate to see it. Um, he's a better player than that. I feel like if they would have had a game 3 today, that he would have got a couple of hits and bounced back and played great. It's unfortunate. That's sports. That's what makes sports so great. Is there's no tomorrow a lot of times, right? Like it's really like win or go home. You live or you die type thing. That's what makes the winning so awesome. Is because only one team wins a championship. So ultimately, most years your season ends in some kind of disappointing fashion, and that to me is what is one of the things that makes sports so great is just the finality of it, the realness of it. Like I stood there in that final out watching Coastal Carolina dogpile um, on top of our field. Man, that sucked. That sucked, and I hate to see Cooper go out that way. I wish him all the best moving forward. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. Whatever he does, he's a great young man. But if you would have told me, before the game, I got Cooper Murray's going to go 0 for 4, you obviously say, "Uh-oh, Auburn's in trouble." Right? Auburn's in trouble. You bring in Cam Tilley, he gives you 4 pitches. It just yesterday it just felt like Auburn didn't have it. It didn't feel like it was going to come around. You stayed till the end because college baseball is crazy. And look, no one left. No one left Plainsman Park as hot as it was until the final out was recorded. And that's just kind of where I'll end it here. Is I want to give a big shout out to the Auburn baseball fans and just the Auburn family in general because you guys show out so much. It's crazy. We know the atmosphere at Neville Arena. It's like $500 to even get in the building at this point. The tickets are just outrageous. We've seen mediocre Auburn teams the last 4 years in football, and mediocre might even be sunshine pump a little bit. Bad Auburn football teams, and at least poorly coached the last 2 years for sure. Those teams still sold out, atmosphere through the roof. Look at the last 2 times Texas A&M's come to Auburn. They've come to play bad Auburn teams in some incredible atmospheres. And this weekend was no different. The Auburn fans showed up, broke the record attendance again, and you can look at my post from the game. Just look out at the. I posted a picture right before that the teams are on the field, do hand over their heart for the national anthem. You just see the parking deck. It's just people were standing in the stairways of the parking deck. It was insane. So the Auburn fans are going to show up and show out regardless. And I think that this baseball team and this baseball program took a massive step forward this year, despite the disappointing into it. And I'm just really proud of the players, the coaches, the fans. It's been a good year. Auburn had to have a successful bounce back, like I said earlier in the episode, reset type year. That doesn't make the way that this season ended any less disappointing, any less hurtful. And I think the thing that sucks the most is you leave this weekend thinking Auburn can beat Coastal. And I'm not saying that is not a shot at Coastal Carolina. They're a great ball club. They deserve to win. They won fair and square. Have no problem with Coastal. The players and coaches at all. Their fans were pretty nuts. They were pretty wild. I'm not going to get into all that because I don't want to let the people that I was sitting around dictate how I feel about the entire Coastal Carolina fan base. I sit around some assholes. But all in all, man, like I'm not throwing any shade at their program. What I'm saying is that Auburn, you leave this weekend feeling like Auburn easily could have won. But you just left too many opportunities out there on the table. And that's why I said as cliche and as elementary as this is going to sound in the preview show the other day, that's why I said, hey, it's just simple. The key to this series is going to be Auburn has to capitalize on opportunities, whether it be runners in scoring position or whether it be balls being hung out over a plate and you driving them. Auburn didn't have any extra base hits yesterday. Like you just didn't it looked kind of lifeless at the plate at time. Uh, the strikeouts, good God. How many innings ended in a strikeout for Auburn? And as you stack those up, man, I don't care what any of these analytic heads say about strikeouts don't matter no more and blah blah blah. Bro, to momentum, that's demoralizing, man. When every one of your frames ends with you striking out, like every other inning, 3, 4 times in a row type stuff, you're like, goodness, man, it's a tough blow. And it's some of your best hitters. It's tough. It's tough to bounce back from that. And ultimately, as the game wore on, it just felt like Auburn didn't have it. And you missed a big opportunity to win the game Friday night. You had a ton of opportunities to win the game Saturday. So that's what makes it suck. And but ultimately, I want to thank all of you that have followed along the baseball coverage this year. I want to thank Blake for the great job that he did when he's recently moved on to another network, and wish Blake nothing but the best. Me and Blake are still cool. We were texting this weekend. There's nothing there, no hard feelings or anything like that. He's going to crush it over there at his new network. But I want to thank him for the hard work that he put in for the Uptempo podcast, covering the baseball team throughout the season. He did a great job. And I want to thank all of you guys that have tuned into our baseball coverage, because baseball doesn't do the numbers, man. It doesn't do the views and all that kind of stuff. But made the decision to do it here at the Uptempo podcast because I love the baseball program. Auburn baseball is actually like my first love with Auburn. And going back to that 98 team, those 99 teams, we had a guy here from Pensacola, Heath Kelly, that played infield. And I'm sure some of you older fans remember Heath. He's really good friends with my dad. They're like family friends and all that. So that's kind of how I got indoctrinated into the Auburn baseball. I was going up there as a kid and hanging out with Heath and him, and let me come in the dugout after the game with some of those great Auburn teams. So I got a soft spot in my heart for Auburn baseball and all the times that me and my dad sat in Plainsman as a kid. So that's why we do it, man. It's because I just love Auburn baseball. They deserve the shine. They deserve the love. And I'm super proud of all these guys. And only one team wins the championship. And these guys, they played their ass off all year. And they gave it everything they had. And they had a bounce back season when Auburn had to have it. So much love to everybody that's moving on from Auburn baseball that is out of eligibility. And to everybody that's coming back next year, to the new transfer portal additions that I'm sure we'll talk about at some point during the off season now for baseball. Auburn got I believe it's 3 transfer additions yesterday. Additions from the transfer portal. For those guys, man, it's use this as fuel. Let's go get our redemption. And there's still the best days for Auburn baseball are ahead. They're not behind, they're ahead. This program is back on the right track. Last year, a little bump on the road. It's all up from here. So thank y'all, man. Thank everybody. Thank the fans for tuning in for the baseball coverage. I love y'all. Got some stuff coming out for the members later this week. And I guess now that the Auburn sports calendar year is officially over and football is the next one on deck, pretty much, the next big one anyway, it's time to start pumping out full-time football content and looking forward to the 2025 football season, man. So we're going to do that right here. I love y'all. I thank y'all. Please smash the thumbs up button. Share this out on social media. It'll help me out a lot. And sub to the channel if you have not already. Sign up for those memberships if you haven't already. Got a lot of great stuff coming out for you guys right there. And I will catch y'all on the next episode. Until next time, I love you. Boy Damn Eagle. I'm out.